This is Kevin Moore from Timba.com, back again with an introduction to Beyond Salsa Piano, Volume 2, Cuban Piano Tumbaos, 1940 to 1959. This video assumes that you've already seen the much longer introduction to Beyond Salsa Piano Volume 1, which includes an overview of the series and answers all the standard questions about notation, audio files, buying the book versus the ebook, and so on. Volume 1 consisted of tres tumbaos adapted for easy piano and covered the period from the beginning of recorded music through the arrival of Arsenio Rodriguez in the 1940s. Volume 2 begins in 1940 as pianists were taking over the primary responsibility of playing tumbaos. Pre-revolutionary Cuban music can be neatly divided into three categories, or as I like to call them, bloodlines. The first is son, which includes the sextetos and septetos of the 20s and 30s and the larger conjunto format introduced by Arsenio. This format used tres, trumpets, and bongo, but not timbales. Its most direct counterpart was the danzón or charanga bloodline, featuring flute, violins, and timbales, but not bongo. The third bloodline, the big band or jazz band format, was modeled on North American big bands and featured multiple horn sections. To give you some real-world examples, the big band category includes Beny Moré y su banda gigante, Orquesta Riverside, Pérez Prado, Machito and his Afro-Cubans, and Tito Puente. Joining Arcaño and Fajardo in the charanga category were the Orquestas Aragón, Sublime, Sensación, and América, and the top conjuntos included those of Chappottín and Modelo. If Arsenio Rodriguez was the titan of the conjunto format, the most important charanga group of the 1940s was Arcaño y sus Maravillas, featuring the legendary Israel Cachao López, his brother Orestes, and the great pianist Jesús López, as well as many other key figures. This group eventually morphed into José Fajardo's classic charanga of the 1950s. We cover its history in microscopic detail in our sister volume, Beyond Salsa Bass Volume 2. The bass books are excellent cross-training for the piano student. They're up to 4 times longer than their piano counterparts and contain much more history. Learning to play the bass tumbaos with your left hand while you play the piano tumbaos with your right is also an excellent study. On the classic track Arriba la Invasión from 1944, Arcaño's pianist, Jesús López, plays the earliest example I've found of what was to become by far the most common generic salsa piano tumbao. As explained in the previous video, each tumbao is written in both 16th notes and 8th notes, and there are full speed and slow motion versions of each track in the audio companion product. Chapter 1 also introduces 2 other now very familiar piano tumbao styles pioneered by López, the seminal cha-cha-cha figure, and one of the most debated hooks in Latin music, the famous Rarezas Chanchullo Oye Como Va figure. Our sister volume, Beyond Salsa Bass Volume 2, has a full history of this controversial riff. By the 1940s, clave-aligned piano and bass tumbaos were becoming more and more common. Volume 2 takes 2 approaches to this tricky topic. Chapters 6 and Appendix 3 appeal to your head, and Chapter 2 to your heart, or more accurately, to your feet. Chapter 3 covers the third major bloodline, the big bands of Beny Moré, Pérez Prado and company that took the world by storm with the mambo explosion of the 1950s, setting the stage for New York Palladium-era artists such as Tito Puente, Tito Rodriguez, and Machito and his Afro-Cubans. The 440-page third volume of Beyond Salsa Bass contains a full accounting of the goings-on outside of Cuba in Puerto Rico and New York. While the 1940s witnessed the most dramatic musical innovations, it was in the 50s that Cuban music reached its peak of popularity and assimilation into North American culture. Not to be outdone by the big bands and their mambo craze, charangas like Orquesta Aragón and Fajardo y sus Estrellas also achieved mania-level popularity with the cha-cha-cha and later the pachanga. Chapter 4 introduces what I call tumbao counterpoint. 1950s charanga often featured 3 tumbaos at once, played by the bass, piano, and the string section. This paved the way for the dual keyboard tumbaos of timba and Elio Reve's groundbreaking charangon of the 80s, which often featured a 5-way matrix of bass, piano, tres, violin, and trombone riffs. Here's one of several examples of tumbao counterpoint from Chapter 4. When Arsenio left for New York in the early 50s, the members of his conjunto reassembled to form the nuclei of Conjunto Chappottín and Conjunto Modelo. Also covered in Chapter 4 is Celia Cruz's early career with Sonora Matancera before she too moved to New York City. In Chapter 6, we return to the topic of clave, explaining how tumbaos are aligned to the clave and giving examples from the tumbaos we've learned earlier in the book. Each of the first 5 volumes has a harmony appendix in which we analyze the chord progression of each tumbao and Roman numerals and explore various aspects of harmony. Looking ahead to Volume 3, the Cuban Revolution, occurring just after the period covered in Volume 2, changed everything drastically. 1950s Cuban music continued to be played in New York, where it gradually evolved into salsa, a story told in great detail in Beyond Salsa Bass Volume 3. Beyond Salsa Piano Volume 3 stays in Cuba, where, largely isolated from the rest of the world, musicians developed a wide range of eclectic new genres such as Mozambique, Pilon, Changui 68, Songo, and Batum Bata.